Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is our series where we have a look at everything 3D printed for Blood Bowl. Now, it's been a little while, but we are back and we are kicking things off with an awesome new team from UGNI. This is part one of their Chaos Dwarf team and we're going to pan to some spinny shots. Okay, so the minis themselves are brilliant. I printed these on my Saturn II. The problem with this is that I used auto shot primer and it was very, very cold. So you'll have to forgive me. The models are great. The priming, absolute garbage. So that's totally on me. Anyway, let's have a look and see what the team entails. Okay, so this is available on Patreon and on Mini Factory Tribes, and this is going to be part one of the Chaos Dwarf team. And I'm not being funny, but it includes most of the Chaos Dwarf team that you will need. Let's have a look and scroll down. So let's just click this button and see if we get some side-by-side pictures. So Chaos Dwarfs part one, you are going to get all of these players. Now, the star of the show is obviously going to be the Fiery Minotaur. So we've got the Fiery Minotaur in this release. We've got both of the Chaos Dwarf Bull Centaurs there. Again, the motif of this theme is just flames. This team, all right, this video needs to start with some Doom style music, because that is very much how this team is. It's kind of like a demonic Chaos Dwarf team. There's tons of the standard Chaos Dwarf stuff, right? So you've got the pieces of metal, you've got the braided beards, that kind of like Assyrian style like look that they have. They've nailed it here with that. But you've also got these kind of mutated hobgoblins. They've got little horns. They look like imps. They look like gremlins. And you've got a couple of stabbers in this one. So there's one stabber there on the left-hand side and you've got another stabber here. But they've all got these protrusions and horns and stabby bits. And in this release, which is it really part one? Like, is this really part one? This part is labeled part one. But you get one flamesmith there. You get another flamesmith here. Now, they're quite cleverly put together. The flame is separate. So UGNI's done a great job recently of producing just single part miniatures. For the first time, you had to print two little flame bits separately, but they go in beautifully. They plug in really nicely, a bit of super glue, and it just adds so much versatility to the model. It adds a load of character to it. So you've got two flamesmiths and two Chaos Dwarf blockers. So I guess part one, because you only get two Chaos Dwarf blockers, and I think you get 4 standard hobgoblins and 2 stabby hobgoblins. I'm not being funny, but this is the majority of a Chaos Dwarf team. So when it comes to UGNI, I can only assume that next month, a couple more hobgoblins, definitely a few more Chaos Dwarf blockers, and then star players, I would imagine. But we are not here for that. We are here for part one. So in part one, you get basically a whole Chaos Dwarf team. Okay, so over in Chitubox, we are going to have a look at just a few of the STLs. I'm not going to go overboard because, quite frankly, they work. So when it comes to this, God, I'm zooming slowly today. Never mind. Zoom, please. Zoom for me. There we go. Right, so we have got one of the Bull Centaur models. And I've used one of the pre-supports here just to kind of demonstrate the fact that this entire team comes pre-supported. Did I have anything to say about the pre-supports? No, they worked perfectly. I'm not sure. I lost one hobgoblin, but I think that may have been me being a bit aggressive. So be careful of the ankles. But even this guy came out perfectly fine. So I wasn't worried about these. I just slapped the pre-supports on the plate and I just printed them with my standard settings. I think 0.4 mil detail is plenty for Blood Bowl when you get a bit of a good prime on. But these are really well supported. I don't believe it took me any... Look. If I can't remember there being a problem, then there wasn't a problem. So I can tell you now the pre-supports work. One thing I did do was I used the supported ones because they come with Chitubox settings as well. So you've got the actual STL and then you've got the file from the Chitubox file as well. I know there are probably some lychee people out there, but I'm going to have to be honest with you. Chitubox is pretty good these days, and there are some lychee folks that are coming back around to it as well. So look, all the STLs are fully supported. You've got the non-supported ones as well. And spoiler alert, the scale is bang on too. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time showing off STLs that if you've got a PC, you can look at yourself. If you don't have a PC and you want to see these prints, the renders are going to do just a good job. Because let me tell you, I slapped these on the plate with no fussing and they came out great. So let's have a look at some of the models. We're going to start with the bull centaur. We're going to start with the flamey Minotaur. Let's see if I can make this smaller. There we go. Something more reasonable. But we can do the extreme close-up when we need to, but we'll have to remember to make Wayne's World noises. So this is the flamey Minotaur. And like I said, bit of a rubbish job on the primer there. I'm going to take the blame for it, but really it's my fault for just letting it get cold and using it cold. Okay, one thing I guess to mention when it comes to the supports is UGNI's done a really good job. I don't know if he farms it out or not, but it's really well supported. But you will potentially end up with little bits of support like this. Now, Milton and I had this chat the other week where I'm putting off building my Necromunda team because, just plastic kits, mold lines, a million pieces and stuff like that. When it comes to 3D printed, this is what you have to deal with, is individual small supports. That's as bad as it gets. So, I mean, this printed faultlessly. I have no issues with it. The supports, yeah, there's a few mini supports. And quite frankly, when it comes to like printing and painting, once you give them a prime, you're going to spot a few extra things. This is no different than doing mold lines. And actually, you clean them up nicely. And then when it comes to priming, it becomes really easy for you to spot where you've got some little tiny bits of supports. It's up to you whether you worry about it. It is the 3D printed equivalent of mold lines, of gaps in the plastic where you put it together. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal. So let's do a size comparison. I don't have any other big guys around here. So we're going to use our Black Orcs. Say hello. Oh, I missed this team. Right, so we've got the Minotaur. The Minotaur is printed at 100% scale. And he's on a 40mm base. Right, let's go toe to toe. Let's have a look from the top down. He is a chunky boy, but look, this is not a massive big guy. He is big enough that you know this is a Minotaur. You know he's a big guy because he is bigger than the Black Orc, right? So size-wise, I know I tend to scale up the big guys on my teams to 110%. I wouldn't bother with this. If I was going to do this team for myself to use, I probably would scale this up 110%. But it's really not necessary. That's just because when we come to film the games, I like the big guys to look really big because they bring a lot of character to the team, especially the Chaos Dwarf one, as you will have seen if you've been watching the 7 Super Series. So the Minotaur, scale-wise, is good. I would scale him up, but quality, absolutely there. Support's good, scale good, all good. Right, now it is time for the Bull Centaurs. So let's have a look at the first of the Bull Centaurs. So this is what I meant by it has that classic kind of, it's got the Chaos Dwarf beard bits, right? You've got the Chaos Dwarf beard bits, you've got lots of all these metal components, like the heavy metal plate armor, the kind of ringlets on the beards, and the big old tusk horns. They are proper classic Chaos Dwarf stuff. I can't see anybody painting these metal bits, not some kind of brass and the armor just not red. I'm sure you can, but this is just classic Chaos Dwarf. He's nailed the sculpts, and again, you've got a few little support bits there that I've not cleaned up, but I mean, 20 minutes with a sharp knife, be careful, or a file or something, and you'd have the entire team absolutely 100% ready to go. Again, it's easier to see once you've done the priming, but there's a ton of detail on these models. Like, the face is excellent, and this is with standard settings and standard support, so huge fan of this. That's one of them. Let's have a look at the other ones. The other one's a little bit more bestial, which I really like. So he's got more of the flame on the top of his head. He's got more of the angry face. He's got a fun pose, I'll give you that. But actually, you've got all the standard kind of elements of a Chaos team, of a Chaos Dwarf team. Really like that. Let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah, right, scale-wise, I put these guys on a 40mm base as well. Your mileage may vary. The Games Workshop ones, I think, are definitely 40mm base size. So let's put them up against a Black Orc. Black Orc is your quintessential strength 4-piece these days, right? Right, head and shoulders above the Black Orc, mass equal to, if not bigger than the Black Orc. Now, these guys are not centaurs, they are bull centaurs. So they are appropriately sized. They're a little bit short in the body, but they need to be for Blood Bowl. And actually, it's not so short that they look weird. So I'm sold on these guys. I think they're brilliant. And if you compare them to the standard Chaos Dwarf, the scaling is absolutely cracking. You put them over the top like that, or to side by side, and you can see they've got their head and shoulders. Actually, this guy's torso above the Chaos Dwarf. So, bull centaurs, love them. Scale good, sculpt good, all good. Let's grab the other Chaos Dwarf. So these are your blockers. These are the 2 blockers that come in part 1. I'm assuming there'll be more in part 2 next month. So let's get them on the camera. And you can see they kind of got, you know, it's a bit of a flame efreet. Efreet, E-F-R-E-E-T. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like a djinn, kind of like a demon thing. And that's the vibe that this team's picking up. Halfway between Chaos Dwarves and Flame Elementals, which is a very cool place to be and really fits in with the team. So they've got iron hard skin. So where these players, if they don't have the armor, they have got like a really tough, almost magma-based level of skin. Then you can see that they've got that kind of like bumpy bits, protrusions. They're kind of troll-like in some of their skins. But you've got that mixed in with all the classic dwarf traits. You've got the kind of jagged, not jagged edges, but like straight edges of like a heavy metal armor plating, whether it comes on their sides, like on their leg pieces or on their crotch armor. They've got big metal boots, and they've got that kind of wispy flame hair. So Chaos Dwarf blockers, good. We'll bring the Black Orc in. So Chaos Dwarf blockers are only strength 3. Yeah, that works great. I did also grab a vampire because hilariously, I don't have that many Games Workshop teams out and about. We've kind of replaced them with third-party ones. So this is a vampire lineman. He's strength 3 as well. And from a size point of view, he's going to be kind of like our gauge for strength 3. And the Chaos Dwarf looks heavier, but not so gigantic that it's going to cause an issue. Let's bring the Minotaur in really quickly. Yeah. That Minotaur looks tons bigger than size 3. So the only 2 pieces left to go before we look at the Hobgoblins are the Flamesmiths. So this piece of fire was separate and this piece of fire was separate. So you had to glue it on, which was very novel, but excellently done and wasn't too hard at all. So these guys look heavy, more heavily armored than the standard guys. They're almost less mutated than the standard Chaos Dwarf blockers, but they've got this cool wisp of flame. Now, I think you could probably have sculpted it and supported it with the flame attached, but this way you kind of, for this one anyway, you can guarantee that you're not going to have a print failure. This, although you could print it and support it, the fact it was separate just made it so much easier, and you can also therefore paint it separate if you want. But he's got the back skin stuff, but monstrous flame here. So this is something that's going to be really important when we look at all third-party teams for Chaos Dwarves, is how obvious the Flamesmiths are. And the fact that they've got big gouts of flame makes it pretty obvious. So we are a fan of that as well. Now, I think when it comes to the Hobgoblins, I don't know how many of the stabbers I got. I did lose one. I think I broke his ankle when I was taking supports off. So let's have a look. We got some random. That's definitely a knife man. All right, we got both sneaky stabbers from this one here. So here's the first, crouching, Marvel pose, sneaky stabber, and they've got this cool gremlin sort of, not demon, but like imp vibe to them. And again, you can see a few little supports there where I've not tried very hard to support it up, but you've got plenty of detail. You can even see the stitching there on the back of his trousers. Whoop, enhance, which I think is pretty cool. So loads of detail. The cool thing about this is, and I've not said this for a while, is that these are going to take contrast paints beautifully. So one sneaky stabber, wicked. The pose for the second one, they've got a lot of character. The cool thing about this team, I think you've got a lot of potential here if you're a role player or a dungeon crawler. Like you've got some villains, or you've got some heroes, especially with the sneaky stabbers here. You've got some good NPCs, but the sneaky stabbers look like a ton of fun to be used in an RPG or a skirmish game. Good pose, good knives, and then you've got some hobgoblins. So you've got the traditional top kind of hat, the noddy hat of the hobgoblin. He's got that. There's a few of them there. You've got the flames, which you can paint up as fur, obviously, and some of these for the kind of fire motif. And then you've got this guy. Now, this was quite interesting. So this is a hobgoblin who's got a little bit of a mutation there, which is cool, but he's also got 2 gouts of flames in his fist. So you've got a little bit of a modelling opportunity here, or a painting opportunity. You could even use him as one of your sneaky stabbers to be like the fire guy is the one who's stabbing him. I don't mean Ryan from The Office, fire guy. I just mean that you've got some cool painting potential for this. So the hobgoblins, we'll do a quick scale check on a black orc. Black orc is strength 4, hobgoblin is not. The other thing that's important here is that Hobgoblins are armor, what, 8+? The same as a Vampire. So this is the Games Workshop Vampire Thrall. Size-wise, they are pretty much in line. These guys are a little bit frail. These guys are not. These guys are a little bit taller, but actually there's plenty of mass here. And when it comes to armor, these guys do not look armor 9+. They don't look as tough as a human. They don't look tougher than that. I'm actually really impressed with this. The Hobgoblins look a lot of fun to paint up as well. And I think it kind of leans you to doing a non-traditional skin, a non-traditional paint job with these guys. Either you go red skin, gold armor, purple skin with red flames. This team actually looks a lot of fun to paint. All right, there you have it. We have got a very cool start to a Chaos Dwarf team. That start including all the pieces you need for a Chaos Dwarf team. So I am so excited to be able to get back into doing print to pitch videos. Still working on a few things obviously, and we'll dial it back in. But there's so much cool stuff out there. So if you've got access to a 3D printer, or if you just know someone who's got one, or an Etsy shop, there's plenty of places you can get these teams for online. And they are so good. It just gives us so much option as Blood Bowl players. The only thing I'll say on this is that the bases don't come with the teams. I cannot remember where these bases are from. I just have piles. I actually have a drawer full of 3D printed bases just so I can do print to pitch videos. So, really big fan of part 1 of the UGNI team here. I look forward to next month where we get part 2. But for now, I'm going to wrap up and we will be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy printing.